We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Ayin Beis Amid Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 172b. On the previous Amid, there was a case that came before Rav Huna. A person brought a star, and the star said, I, so-and-so, borrowed money from you. So it identified the borrower, but it didn't identify the lender, it just said the word you. And the question is, can the person who is holding the star, can he say he's the lender and collect the money? And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna says, Mimchav, it says from you, Afilu me Reish Galusa, that doesn't necessarily mean it's from you, it could be from the Reish Galusa, from the head of the exile, Vafilu Mishvor Malka, maybe it means even from King Shapur, meaning to say this star is no good, you can't use the star to collect, because it doesn't identify that you are the lender. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rav Chisda l'Rabba, Rav Chisda said to Rabba, poke ayin bo, go and look into this case, to la'ursa boi lo Rav Huna minach, because tonight, Rav Huna is going to ask from you what the answer is to this question. And so the Gemara continues, Nafak Rabba went out, Dak ve'eshkach, he looked and he found as follows. The Tanya we learned in a Brisa, get sheyesh olav edim ve'ein bozman, let's say you have a get, and the get has witnesses signed on it, but it does not have any date. Abashol Omer, Abashol says, Im kasav bo, ke rashtia hayom kosher, if it's written in the get, if it says that I divorced her today, so then it's going to be kosher. And so the Gemara says, Alma we see, hayom, that when it says today, even though it doesn't say the exact date, hahu yom denafik be'mashma, that implies the day where the get is produced in court. As the Rashbam says, hahu yom denafik bebezdin lehiskaresh o isha mashma, it means the day that it was produced in court for the woman to be divorced. V'chashvin an leik, man gomer, we consider it as if it has a date, even though it doesn't say the date. It just says hayom, that's considered again the yom denafik be'mashma. So hachanamis over here also, mimcha, when it says from you, and this person is holding the document, me'ahu gavra denafik mituse yodei mashma, that implies we're talking about the person who is holding, who has possession of the document, and so therefore this star should be effective to collect with. But the Gemara continues, Amar le Abaye, Abaye said back to him, how can you bring a proof from this brisa, from this position of Abashol? V'dilma Abashol, Rabbi Eliezer Svirle, maybe Abashol, he holds like Rebbe Lozer. The Mesoras Hashas says the proper text should not be Rabbi Eliezer, it should be Rebbe Lozer. Maybe Abashol holds like Rebbe Lozer, Do Amar Eidei Mesira Karti. Rebbe Lozer says, Eidei Mesira Karti, that it's the Eidei Mesira, the Eidim, the witnesses who witness the giving over of the get, they're the ones that make it a get. It's not the Eidim that are signed on the get, and therefore, according to Rebbe Lozer, you don't even really need a date at all on the get, and maybe that's why Abashol says that it's considered kosher in that situation. Aval hacha, but over here in our case where the document says mimicha from you, so lechash lenafila, again we should be concerned that maybe the document fell from the true lender, and maybe this person holding the document is not the real lender. And the Rashbam explains, Dilma Abashol lochayesh l'shum zman begitin b'di'evid. Maybe Abashol is not concerned at all in terms of having a date on the get, b'di'evid, after the fact, he still says it's okay. Uchud Rebbe Lozer, like Rebbe Lozer says, Uchud Rebbe Lozer Svirle, he holds like Rebbe Lozer, the Tanan b'Perek HaMegarish, Shlosha Gittin Psulim v'Vnisis Havlad Kosher. It says in Perek HaMegarish, there are 3 Gittin that are disqualified, but if the woman does use that get to remarry, the child is kosher. Kasav b'chsav yodo v'ein olav edim, if it's written in his handwriting, but there are no witnesses, yesh olav edim v'ein bozman. If there are witnesses but there's no date, yesh bozman ve'ein bo ela ein echad. If there's a date but there's only one witness, harei elu shlosha gittin psulin. In these 3 cases, the get is possible. V'yem nisas havlad kosher, and if she uses that get to remarry, the child is still kosher. Rebbe Lozer Omer, Rebbe Lozer says, afal pi she'ein olav edim, even if there are no witnesses, ela shenosnu lo b'fnei edim, but it was given in front of witnesses, meaning you have edim mesira, kosher, that is kosher, v'govim in echasim mishubadim, you can use it to collect even from property with a lien. She'ein ha'edim chosman ala get elam im neitikon ha'olam, because the only reason you even have the signatures is just for the betterment of the world. And so the Rashbam says, v'chi hechid Rebbe Lozer machshir lei below edim, misham taime de edim mesira karti, just like Rebbe Lozer says that it's kosher without witnesses because we hold edim mesira karti, hachnami machshir lei below zman, so too he would say it's good without a date, misham hai time agufi, for that very same reason, kedektani yeshol of edim ve'ein bozman b'hai mishnah d'shlosha gitin psulin, just like it says in that mishnah case where there are witnesses and there's no date, v'yalok koi Rebbe Lozer, and it's on that Rebbe Lozer is going, v'yarmer, and he says, afapi she'ein olav edim b'hai shtar she'ein bozman kosher, even if there are no witnesses on that shtar which does not have a date, it is kosher. She'ein ha'edim chosman ala get elam im neitikon ha'olam, because the edim only signed the get for the betterment of the world. And the Rashbam continues, v'achanami, so here also, ein kosman bozman elam im neitikon ha'olam, the same is true by the date, it's only written for the betterment of the world, basachoso, peiros, k'nemefarish, b'perek ha'mevit inyana, like it's explained explained in Meseches Gittin, v'kevan shenasnu la b'fnei edim heim yoidu al azman v'al get. As long as it was given in front of witnesses, they'll testify about the date, they'll testify about the get. Now the question then is, if you don't need a date at all, so why is Abishol saying, talking about a case where in the get it says that today you were divorced? It does seem to be some kind of an allusion to a date. So lav mishum zman, it's not because of a date. That's not even a date. Well, zman lo chayesh Rebbe Elazar, and he's not concerned with a date. Again, he follows Rebbe Elazar. Ela deboya Abishol yadayim mochichos. Rather, Abishol needs to have a real indication. The misha kibla haget nisgar shemiyad, that from the moment she received the get, there was an immediate divorce. Shemlo nichtav mehayom beget zeh she'in bozman. If you don't write that mehayom in this get which has no date, minayin lonu sheyiyah get. How do we know that it's an effective get? Shemein bedaitel legar shemiyad beget zeh at sof shano shnasayim la'achar kabbalah. Maybe he's thinking that the divorce should not take place immediately, but it'll take place a year, or it'll take place 2 years after she receives it. Hilkach boy Abishol sheyichtavu hayom. That's why Abishol says you have to write hayom. Since you don't have a date to indicate when the divorce is, like Rav Yossi says, generally the date tells us about the shtar. And the Rashbam notes what Abishol is saying over here is the same reason why we write in a get min yom from today forward there's a divorce, because we want to indicate when that gerushin actually takes effect. And the Rashbam continues, Abaya then said, but over here in our case, again, when we're talking about the document that just says you, it does not identify the lender, so lechash lenafila, we should be concerned that it fell and it was picked up by someone else. So Chidravuna, like Rafuna says, Diyamar mimcha afila me reish galusa, like he said, from you could be from anybody. It can even be the reish galusa, v'shema me'achar nafal, umatzozeh, maybe it fell from someone else, and this person found it. And the Gemara continues, Amar Le, Rabba said back to Abaya, Nefila lo chayshin, and it's not true. We are not considered for Nefila in this situation. We're not concerned that this get that said you, that it fell from the actual lender and was picked up by someone else. And Rabba continues, and from where do we know that there's no concern that it fell? The Tanan, we know it from our Mishnah, because it says in our Mishnah, Shnayim shayu bi'arachas, let's say you have two people in one city, Shem Echad Yosef ben Shimon, V'Shem Achar Yosef ben Shimon, two people with the same name, they're both named Yosef ben Shimon, Einon Yecholon they can't take out a shtar chov one against the other. We don't really know which one of them is the lender. Another person can't come and take out a shtar against them because we don't know which Yosef ben Shimon is the one that owes the money. But what can we infer from the Mishnah? But let's say they take out a document against others. Let's say one of the Yosef ben Shimon comes with a document. He's the lender and he's trying to collect from someone else. Yecholin, apparently they're able to do that. And we don't say that it fell from one Yosef ben Shimon and this is not the true lender. This is the other Yosef ben Shimon who found it. So ve'amayna, why is it true that they're able to take out a shtar against someone else? Leichosh lenafila, why aren't we concerned that it fell from one Yosef ben Shimon and it was picked up by another Yosef ben Shimon? And so therefore Rabba proves elalav, rather do we not see shma mina, don't we see lenafila lo chayshinon, that we're not concerned for nafila, we're not concerned that it fell from one Yosef ben Shimon and was picked up by another Yosef ben Shimon. Ve'abaya, but Abaya responds to Rabba, that's no proof at all. Lenafila dechad lo chayshinon, when we're talking about one person has to have had it fall from his possession and then be picked up by the other person. There's only two Yosef ben Shimons. That we're not concerned with. What are the chances that it fell from one Yosef ben Shimon and now was picked up by the other Yosef ben Shimon? But in our case, where we're talking about where the document just says you, it could have fell from anyone. That's nefila derabim. It could have fallen from anyone in the public. That we would be concerned, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph.